Oh, well, we're here. And welcome to Let's Talk Shop with Russ. The subject tonight is pallet wood, and we're going to try to get back on track of just not talking about so much, I guess I can't say it any other way but BS, but and try to get into some more woodworking subjects. And I know that Chris uses some, and I've seen Al, I think Jim, been breaking up some pallet wood pallets and using some of the wood out of it. And I know Donald has in the past. I have in the past. I think all of us have. Donna, have you?
Yes.
Yeah. So we've all pretty well played around with pallet wood, and whether we found it to be I don't want to say profitable, but if you're looking for free wood, that's definitely an alternative. So we're just going to discuss a little bit tonight about the pros and cons of it, because there are both. It's free wood. You find pallets in the back of warehouses stacked up along beside dumpsters. I mean, they're all over the place. One time in my life, which I told the guys before tonight, in the pre-show, I found a solid pallet made out of walnut, and I couldn't believe it.
True.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe it. It blew my mind away. But I found out that in a lot of these foreign countries, some of that wood, like walnut, is like pretty well nothing to them because they have it very sparingly. And so for us, it's like gold, so to speak. And so, but I couldn't believe it. I got pictures of it. I'll try to find them back through my scrap pile from years ago when I found it and tore it apart, and I made some very beautiful things with it. So pallet wood is good in some ways, but you have to weigh the fact of the pros and cons, and so that's what we're going to discuss tonight. So I need to bring up, I can see him, Michelle Mark too.
Some pallets can be really heavy too.
Yep.
And
Yes,
some
they
are
can.
really light, and then some
Oh yeah. Well, it depends on how they're made, and I didn't discover out 2 years later when I first started messing around with pallet wood that they're actually, pallets are designed and built differently, so to speak.
Yeah,
depending on
the weight.
Yeah, there are like classifications of pallets. Did y'all know that there are classifications of pallets?
Yep.
Yeah,
I remember the codes, but yeah.
And there's also ones that you're not supposed to use because they're leased and they're supposed to be returned to the leasing company. Those ones that are painted blue. Yeah.
They're blue. Okay.
Yep, that's right.
I knew we shouldn't use them, so I just made one. And they're blue. They're blue.
You got the color right too.
Some pallets, and you don't know this as far as picking them up, are actually made for hauling chemicals. So therefore, if the drum is carrying cyanide and it leaks into the wood and you start tearing apart a pallet made that has been drenched in cyanide, guess what? You're gonna die. Yeah, you're gonna die.
If they're blue, they're not for you. That's all right.
I just disagree with the fact. I just disagree that anything you got to work for that hard to get any salvageable wood out of being free. It is not free.
I'll tell you where you can get. I'll tell you where you can get really, really premium wood, but The hard part is getting rid of the stuff you don't want. Is on Facebook, you can get a Facebook Marketplace. You can get free pianos. People just want to get rid of them. And if you got a way to get it home, there's a lot of premium lumber in pianos.
And a piano weighs a lot.
A lot. And then you got to get it. You got to get rid of the cast iron structure underneath it.
Right.
Exactly.
Take it to
Well,
a
now
my
my son-in-law
cut it up a little bit.
actually works for, and he's doing his entire living room wall
in pianos,
pallet wood.
Oh, I thought
but he works at the mines, so therefore they're bringing in these big machine parts that are crated. So even though you might want to consider it a pallet, so to speak, but they're bringing these big machines and they're tearing them apart and throwing away the wood, and he's actually collecting it and some of the nicer, longer pieces, and he actually has made his whole wall out of the pallet wood, and he's burning it with a torch and putting it, and it looks nice. It really does look nice.
That's where I got the wood from that table I built for my daughter. It came from a pallet crate, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's more of a crate.
The grocery store had just got a new flooring machine, and it came in that.
Yeah, it's more of a crate rather than a pallet.
Them crates a lot of times are made of Class A. The sides are Class A aircraft panels, which is nice and thin, and it's perfect if you would stain it, but you can laser cut parts out. But we get Nordson glue units all the time for $50,000, and they put grade A aircraft plywood on the sides.
Wow. All right, so Aussie Man's out there, Michelle Marcoux, Vicky Rumsey, Leonard Davis. I thought, Leonard, you weren't supposed to be here tonight. I thought you said you had something you had to do.
JJE Davis.
Yeah, JJE. Anybody y'all see, call him out. Go ahead.
Jim.
Russ Meadows is out there.
Russ Meadows is out there. Hello, Russ Meadows. Welcome,
hello, Russ.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, thank you all for all being out there. So, yeah, I think you have to look at the fact.
Aussie Man's out there too, as always.
Oh, Aussie Man. I did see Aussie Man. Thank you, Aussie Man. I think I pointed out, but I may have missed him. So,
I did
the printing companies. Leonard Davis says the printing companies I used to deal with had new custom pallets for everything. Yeah. So yeah. Vicky Ramsey said, I guess things have really changed since my hubby passed. He always mostly pallets for all the wonderful clocks he made. Well, that's the thing. It's free wood. I mean,
you can get good wood too.
Yeah, you can find them on the side of the road. You can find them around dumpsters. You can find them behind businesses. Well, before you take them from the business, though, you better ask, because sometimes they recycle those pallets. In other words,
that's what Home Depot does.
Yeah, so
the big change.
And if it's blue, it's not for you. Okay, if it's blue, it's not for you.
But yeah, so and we had the pallet challenge for years that I have thought about bringing that one back and the Whirligig Wars back.
I forgot. Yeah, I can brag on that pallet project.
Yeah, I've thought about bringing those two challenges back because I really like the Whirligig Wars and I really like the pallet challenge. So I thought about bringing those two challenges back this year, and we may do that. Matter of fact, I'm looking into in June bringing back the Whirligig Wars in June. So
no, that's not.
But
so whack Russ out of.
Do what?
Al?
No, no, no. This was just regular 1/8 inch.
No, I
Wood.
mean, I just wondered if that's what you made the whack of Russ out of was pallet wood.
Yes, I did.
Yes, he did. The Whacker Russ was out of
This
pallet
is-
wood. Yes.
This is what I made out of
Oh,
pallet
yeah.
wood for the 2008 pallet wood challenge. That was totally
Yes.
made out of pallet wood.
Let's turn
Yeah.
on full
See.
screen. Full screen.
Oh,
So you can
Oh.
make some nice things out of pallet wood.
Hold on. Just give me a second. I'll hold it up.
There we go. Yeah, it's the shuttle. Well,
Yeah, it's from the original Star Trek.
yeah, it's right out there to the left and to the right. That's where it's parked. But every single bit of this is pallet wood, and just anything, any old
That's
pallet
nice.
wood. Yeah,
That's a nice build.
Yeah, it is. That is. You did a
that's
fantastic
turned,
job on that.
turned.
Yeah.
But the point is that you can do stuff with pallet wood. Not thank
Yes.
you, I appreciate it. But that's my point. You can make stuff with pallet wood.
But where's
And-
Spock?
Let's bring
Spock,
back the pallet challenge.
Spock is right here.
Oh, okay.
Spock's inside.
And
So,
then there was, who was
okay, so
Another
let's
guy.
go with the pros of pallet wood.
It's free.
Dixon, have you ever used pallet wood?
No, but I made them little foldable book things that I have out of that aircraft plywood from a pallet.
A pallet, yeah.
Yeah, from a I'll get one of them. It's sitting right here.
I don't benefit. It's free.
It's
Yes, yes.
That's part of it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
these were
Oh
made
yeah, I
from the-
remember that. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that's class. That's good.
cool. Yeah, that was cut on the laser.
Yep, that come from a Nordson glue unit. The side panels.
Cool.
Very nice.
Al. Well, you already showed that. So what's
Well,
give the pros first.
I-
What's the pros of using pallet wood?
I do have a project, by the way, that I worked on today. Some of the pros are that you don't need to run out to the big box store and get wood. If you stockpile them, if you process them, in other words, separate I don't know what they're called, the runners from the slats, I think. Don't help me on.
Something like that. Yeah.
Or do them right there. And I was going to also show you the nail gun that removes the nails, but I'm too lazy to go out in the garage, so we could do a live on it. But I figured, what the heck?
No, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about where it pokes the nails through the wood.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
Yes,
and
because that's the biggest thing that is a pain in the butt in some of the pallets is because they use the spiral nails.
Mhm.
So they
Or glue
don't come
nails.
apart easily. So therefore, it's a pain in the butt to get them out.
Yep.
Well, what I used to do was I would just pop a line on each edge of the pallet on the sides and just take my circular saw and cut along the sides and give me the middle pieces where only the center nail holes I had to deal with.
yeah, there's all sorts of ways to process them.
Yes.
I use a masonry chisel to get the ends out, and then
Yes.
bend it. And I can show that in some photos later on as I show my project.
Paul, pros.
You can get some good wood sometimes if you're picky, and it's like I agree with Don. It's cheap. You
Yeah.
can't beat the price.
No, you can't beat the price. Donald?
I've made a few things out of stuff. I think that whirly gig I made one year was actually out of pallet wood.
Yeah, I think it was too. Yeah.
To me, it's not free because you got to work too hard for
Well,
it.
when I first started the little endeavor to see if we could make some stuff out of the pallet wood, I got involved in, and if you remember right, Sterling started the pallet challenge.
Yep.
Sterling Davis. And then he didn't want to do it anymore, and I inherited it. He called me and asked me if I wanted to do it because I was doing so many challenges and take it over. And I took over the pallet challenge from Sterling Davis. And me and my son one year entered his contest. My son wanted to make a TV stand for his room. And we chose to enter the pallet challenge and took apart some pallets to make his TV stand out of pallets. And so that's what kind of got me going in that direction. But the pain in the butt thing about it is the disassembly and getting the wood prepared, you know. So,
although I will say this, one time in my mother's shed that she was using for sewing room, we were going to build some steps there, but then her mobility was kind of iffy, so we decided to build around. Well, my brother-in-law had some old long pallets from where motorcycle frames have been delivered at the shop.
Oh yeah.
And we just laid that down, kind of braced the top, and added some boards in between the other boards. Worked perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I know the next man that I'm fixing to talk to. He has a high interest in pallets because I think he uses most of the pallets for his projects, right, Chris?
I just said I use a good chunk of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ultimate is we've said it. It's free.
Right.
I think also another thing is you're going to use a lot of your woodwork skills with them. The joinery, the cleaning up of the wood, the getting it ready to be used. You know,
right.
You want to make a panel, you got to plane the boards all down to the same thickness, and then glue them together, glue them right, or maybe use a biscuit, whatever. You know, a lot of little details you don't usually use if you just buy it off the big box store.
Right. So basically, you're right. Is you have to put your woodworking skills together to make some of it turn out to be the way you want it, so to speak.
Now, I used to joke that when we were all younger, we wanted to do woodworking. We're all thinking hammers, nails, screws. Yeah, this is gonna be great. We use glue for most things.
Yeah.
What the other complete opposite direction, buddy. It was a college project.
Most of the stuff that you make, all your wooden stuff that you make and toys and stuff and your designs and stuff, is that still out of pallet wood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, that's pallet wood.
What type of wood is that, Chris?
Pallet wood. I have no idea.
It's
like,
hold it up for a few seconds. Yeah.
It looks like poplar.
It could be.
That's Noah's Ark.
Yeah. But this is a good example. This one won't go to a kid because there was something spilled on it, and we couldn't identify it. So I wasn't going to take a chance and let a kid have this.
Right.
So if I'm doing it, we give to sold or give it to children. I use brand new lumber for that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take the risk of something's been spilled on it. There's a screw buried inside of it. You know, I'm not going to take that risk.
Yeah, you never know what this stuff's been dragged through, even if it wasn't.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things you have to look at is if you're making a birdhouse out of it, or you're making a squirrel picnic table out of it, or you're making a potted plant thing out of it for your yard or whatever. Yeah, totally different situation. But if you're making something like Chris is talking about, giving it to a child, you kind of have to be careful because you don't know where that pallet has been, you know. So,
yeah,
Donna?
This is the best thing I've sold. It's like my trays.
Yeah, the trays. I remember those. Those are cool. Yeah.
I've probably moved 50 or 60 of these. 50 or 60.
Wow,
Half of them being sets, though. So I just realized I got to get working on making some. This is the last one. was gonna go grab one of the subtle trays. Got 3 of them all together. There was nothing there, so I gotta get to work.
Donna, you made much out of pallet wood?
Yeah, and believe it or not, one time I got mahogany.
Oh, nice.
Really?
Wow.
Oh, I'm jealous.
When my husband worked over at the quarry, one of his bosses, which was a friend of ours, he was like, "Hey, we just got some pallet wood in from Africa and stuff, and just different places." He goes, "I swear this one's mahogany." I said, "Well, give it to me." He says, "Okay, I'll give Mark a pass to come over there and get it, and then he'll bring it to you. Let me know." And it was mahogany.
Wow.
Wow.
I was like, "Wow."
Yeah, that's like the discovery I had. Actually, if I remember right, the pallet that I found was made of walnut, came from a cabinet shop. I had made a deal with the cabinet shop that I could, because the cabinets that they got in, the pallets were really nice because of them being cabinets, so to speak.
Right.
So they weren't beat and banged up a lot. And the guy said, "Yeah, we're throwing them away. If you want to come get them, I don't have a problem with it. It just saves me money from having to keep them out of the dumpster. You know, I don't have a full load every week." And that one that I run across was from a cabinet shop. And I just still to my day can't believe that he threw that damn thing out in the damn dumpster. He didn't know, did he not realize it was walnut? You know?
Well, he didn't care. It was a pallet.
Yeah, I guess.
They don't even look; they just chunk them.
Yeah,
they just chunk them.
And cabinet shops, they get rid of the cutoffs the same way.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
yes.
I've been known to find a couple of dumpsters.
There was years ago when I was doing a lot of scroll saw work. Also, that same cabinet guy, all their trim. I told him anything that their trim wood, if he would separate it, like put it like on top of the dumpster or whatever, where I could get to it real easy, that I would take all the trim wood. And I got some pieces of really nice 6, 8, 10, 12 inches long, cove molding and all this other kind of stuff, that enough to make picture frames out of without any problem. For free, because they just toss it into the dumpster.
They say size doesn't matter. Yes, it does.
Yeah. Jim, your pallet wood experiences.
Well, I've made a few things with pallet wood. I've got one of those pneumatic hammer guns, to knock nails out with. So I kind of set myself up to get pallet wood out. And on one of Sterling's shows that we used to hang out with all the time, I won one of those Easy Bar Pros.
Yes, wasn't that Izzy Swan's? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Izzy's design for it. So I've got that still, and I can tear pallets apart like that. But I mean, like nothing beats a circular saw. Just go through it and cut them, and either try to save them long by cutting the sides and then just pulling the nails out in the middle. But the first big group of pallets I got was to do something for the pallet challenge. And man, I don't know what those nails were made out of, but I must have gone through 10, 12, saw blades trying to get those, cut those nails and get the wood out in one piece. I'll never do that again.
Yeah, that's when I first started, I was trying to get the ends off and save or salvage some of the ends, and that's when I really realized that this is useless. Yeah. I used to just pop a line, a circular saw right up the side of the nails, and just salvage the center part, like you said, because once you get the 2 free ends, it was pretty easy to pretty well pull the rocket back and forth and get the center nails out and salvage it. And some of the wood that do what?
I was going to say, who was the guy that was on I can't believe I can't think of his name. he was on the podcast with Bill Lutz and Tim Sway. He used to make not liquor boxes, but like whiskey boxes and stuff like that
Oh,
out of pallet
yeah,
wood.
the pallet wood.
Yeah, man, I'm
Yeah, I know who
embarrassed
you're
that I
talking
can't think
about,
of
but I
his
can't
name.
think of his name either.
But that,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, he's one of the guys that got me into this. You know, between him and Steve Ramsey, I got like,
Yeah.
I kind of got hooked.
Well,
together.
he used to leave the nails in the center part.
Yeah.
Or not leave the nails, but the nail holes where he'd make his little crates or whatever for.
Yeah, that's character.
Yeah, that depends on the project you're doing. So
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
my trays, I leave a lot of the holes there. I clean them up a little bit, get a lot of the gunk out of them, but leaving this. Some projects though, I got to fill them. So.
Yeah, I made a picture frame for my granddaughter's room, and I had little stubby cut off nails from where I got the pallet wood and stuff out, and I just glued those back into the holes, and they look really cool like that.
Yeah. I just read this, and this is kind of. Leonard Davis says, we have a coffin company in town. I contacted them and was told I could not get cut-offs from the coffins. Okay. But,
wood,
I'm not sure that's what he actually meant, but maybe cut-offs from the pallets from the coffins. And then he said, I used to go Saturdays and get some out of the dumpsters. Yeah.
Here's a negative: getting splinters out of your fingers and your hands. Handling them.
Yeah.
If you get a pallet puller, make sure you get the one. I ended up with 2 pallet pullers. Well, one of them I won from Izzy, and the other one, it only had the 2 prongs. It didn't. His has that third one on there, so you can put it on there, and you can pull it.
Right. Yes, there's a difference.
The little prongs on it.
I mean, it's
well,
easy to use, but if they've got those twist nails with the glue on them, you might as well just throw the pallet in the fire.
And that's why I decided, even in the beginning, I designed my own thing to take them apart. But when I discovered that some of them were made with those twist nails, is when I went to you're only losing an inch or so on the end, and I just popped the line on each side of the pallet and just took my circular saw and cut up the sides, and it was just so much easier.
I take a sawzall with one of those bimetal blades. And between the pallet and the like the 2x4 and the top left, I just cut all those off, turn them over, drive the nails out. And
I tried that, but man, I was going through sawzall blades like crazy.
Those nails that they actually use, they're a twist turn nail, but they seem to be made out of some like
hardened steel.
Yeah, hardened steel, because they are in there.
Yeah, Paul.
Paul. Yeah, they are made with some kind of hardened steel. But you have to realize, when they put those pallets together, they don't want them to fall apart.
I get it. It's just
Yeah.
There's this place I go to for work still once a month now. I go over to Bloomington, Illinois, and as I'm driving down 24 from Indiana, there's a pallet company there that's just got, it's not a real big one, but man, they just like have stacks and stacks of pallet wood on pallets. I'm just like, I just wish I could go over there and grab one of those stacks from them, and then I won't have to bother with tearing a pallet apart.
Yeah.
My best source
Aussie Man said, man's best friend in the metal detector was using if you want to make sure the pallet's clean, use a metal detector, that's for sure. But when I did the cutting of the ends off, so you would end up, rather than a 4-foot board, you would end up with a 38-inch board because you took an inch off of each end, but you didn't have to worry about the nails and prying them out and everything. So, and then most of the time you could rock it back and forth on that center beam and pull the nails out. It wasn't nearly as hard, and the nails pretty well, came out at that point. So, but yeah, a metal detector would definitely be worth its weight in gold if you're going to run it through a planer. You damn straight you want to make sure that you go over it to make sure there's no metal, because a chunk of nail will tear up a blade in a planer in a heartbeat.
Yes, it does. From personal experience.
Yeah.
I missed a nail. So. And I use a metal detector too. I missed it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. So.
Put a nice chunk in the blade, about an 1/8 of an inch. That's okay. Just push down the nail on the far side.
And it makes you cry, because it's not that they're expensive. It's a pain in the butt to change them and get them realigned.
Yeah. And while you're in there, you might as well clean out everything.
Okay, so we went over
what you would think would be a 5-minute project turns into an all-afternoon project.
Yeah.
My best source was back up in Mass. There's a wheelchair vendor nearby. Got all the big power chairs delivered to them. And they all came on these thick board pallets with strapping them down. So not only did I get some good lumber, I got all this webbing and D-rings and clips. I had 1.5 boxes of that crap. It was great. I was using them for every type of project we needed a strap for. So.
Hey, another thing to look
the
at
internet for some reason
you may not
sucks on, I think, on a lot of ends, because Chris keeps going in and out. And
Russ, you kind of locked up for a second.
I will say that Chris Nealon had a good thought, and I agree with this. Is yes, Chris, when I first started dealing with pallets, I didn't have a drum sander, and so therefore I was running it all through the planer. But yes, if you have a drum sander, then you don't have to worry about the nails, because it really doesn't. Yeah, the sander just shows you'll see sparks flying out the end of the sander, and you just hit a nail. So it's a few cents to replace the drum belt compared to a set of teeth. So yes, now I have a drum sander. Yes, I usually use it. I don't even hardly use my planer anymore. I use the drum sander, because most of the time when I'm wanting to take some stuff off, it's such a minute amount. The drum sander works so well, I don't even need the thickness planer.
I like mine.
I use the thickness planer on the wider pallet slats, and I plane them down to 1/4 of an inch, and then I use the wood on the laser or wherever. I was using the wood a lot with the Lady Washington, but that wood actually, if I can get the wide slats, and so far I haven't. I've been only able to get the narrower slats, but the wider slats are like 5.5 inches. I can make a 5-inch board.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Al, you were saying about stockpiling. I don't know if you get this on this shot, but there's my stockpile of pallet wood back there.
Yeah, mine's not as organized.
Well,
how much do drum sanders cost? Well, Leonard, it's kind of like how much you want to pay. I caught mine, which was one of the top rated brands, and I've got a
1632.
Yeah, 1632.
That's the one I've got.
And yeah, the same one that I've got, and I caught it on sale years ago from it wasn't Rockler, it was their competitor. What was their competitor's name?
Powermatic.
No, it was a Powermatic, but it was sold at the Woodcraft store.
Woodcraft.
Yeah, Woodcraft.
Grizzly.
No, it wasn't Grizzly. It was Woodcraft, I think. But anyway, I got it for like half the price. They had a sale, and not only that, if you bought it at that price for $100 extra, they gave you the tables, in feed and outfit tables. So I ended up paying less than what it was originally worth, but I've had mine now for years. But it was the 1632. In other words, it does 16 inches, but since it's an open end, you can actually do 16 one way and then run it in and use 16 the other way. So it'll do 32-inch wide.
It takes up a big piece of real estate too.
It does. It does.
Now the tables are fixed. Once you put those suckers on, you can't fold them down or anything. That's what I bought some tables for mine, and I haven't even put them on.
Yeah.
Until I get more
I
room.
looked at one, but they want to give up the real estate space in the shop.
Yeah, it is. But be honest with you, Chris, it will replace your planer. You'll throw your planer out the door.
Yeah, but that lunchbox planer and I have been through some adventures, so I can't get rid of that thing.
You have the old DeWalt?
No, I get the Porta-Cable. Yeah, Porta-Cable.
Oh, Porta-Cable. Yes, they were good. Yes, they were good.
That's what I've got.
Funny thing is, first time I changed blades, I had to wait for the blades to get delivered. I could order them online. They finally come in. I take them all apart. Now, it took about 3 weeks to get the blades. When I took the machine apart, I discovered the blades have a second side in the shop.
Yes.
I could just flip them. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Amazing what you find in the instruction book, huh?
But since I got my drum sander, I pretty well parked my planer because I found myself, the only time I used my planer was just to kind of like flatten out boards, I wasn't really trying to take a lot of wood off. So the drum sander replaced it. And I can honestly say I've got a drum sander sitting over there. I'm probably going to sell it or throw it away or give it away because I ain't used it in 5 years since I had the drum sander.
Yeah, I got a feeling if I was going to invest in either one of them, I'd go with the drum sander.
It is. It's worth it because it will honestly take if you put like an 80 grit belt on it, it will honestly take 1/8 of an inch off at a whack. Especially if you get the good one, like a Powermatic, which has the ass to be able to keep up, you know what I'm saying? The power, in other words, it can take 1/8 of an inch off without a problem. So yeah, if that's what you're wanting to do is just take a small amount off, which even the planer is limited to taking, 1/8 or less off. It can't take a chunk off. So
you got to nibble it down a little at a time.
Yeah. So yeah, once I got that, I was like, yeah, I just don't use the planer that often anymore. And then you have to worry about if you got it set up right, because when it gets down to the end of the board, if it's a long board, you get the what do you want to call it? The little wavy places in it.
Snipe on the end.
Snipe on the end. Thank you for that. Snipe, yes. And you don't have that on a drum sander.
Right. But remember, you can put blocks in there. We had a guest one time.
Yes, we did.
That made his own block to keep the sniping from taking place.
Yes, yes, you can. You can stop the snipe, but yeah, I pretty well. Mine was an old Craftsman that I bought years ago, and it still works. Don't get me wrong, it still works. An old Craftsman that I bought years ago, and used it for years and years and years. But then when I found out about the drum sanders, and then ran into that situation where I got such a deal through Woodcraft, and went over, I had to drive to Tampa to get the sale because you had to actually purchase it from them.
Yeah.
And actually, it wasn't Tampa, it was Clearwater, Florida. It was the only Woodcraft store anywhere close to here. So I drove probably 50, 60 miles one way just to go pick that thing up and bring it home.
If we go in that direction, that's on the list of places to stop. So.
Yep. So I drove over there and picked it up.
But
it was worth it.
That Woodcraft store, Russell, I didn't mean to cut you off, but they have such a huge supply of exotic woods.
Yeah.
Better than the other Woodcraft stores I've been into.
Yes, it does. It does. And I tried to get them to let me teach scroll saw classes over there, but they at the time were not doing any classes. Yeah, they had cut them out for some reason. And then later on, I had left my information with them. They contacted me and said, "We're thinking about doing classes again. Would you be interested in coming over to us and doing, scroll saw classes like you once mentioned?" And I said, "Nah, I'm out of it now." It's like
it's a good store though.
It is. The Clearwater store is a nice store.
Yeah, whenever we go to St. Peter, Tampa for something, that's on the stop list. I just looked at my plane, by the way. I was wrong. It's a Delta.
Can I show the project that I did?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I'm listening. I'm reading a few things. If I need to plan something, I drive by 20 minutes to my brother. Aussie says, haven't any of you guys invested in carbide tip thicknesses yet? I have to go back.
That makes the wood thicker.
Yeah, but they make the Walt, their primo machine for thickness planer now has you can buy the carbide, what is it, the rollers that have 4 different sides on each tip that you can, if it damages one, you can just rotate it around or whatever. But DeWalt has that now. I've noticed on their thickness planers that you can get those blades to put on them. So, okay, so what do you want now?
Let me share my screen, or I guess I can share my screen. Let me share my screen, I guess.
No, I'm not going to let you share your screen.
If I can get there. There we go. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that, can't you? So
yeah, but what does that have to do with pallet wood?
Well, we'll just wait. So I've got these crates, and really and truly, when you put them on top of each other, they crunch down. Okay, and you can't take them out unless you take the top one out to get to the bottom one. Okay, so, and I've got an area that's the size that I ended up making for this, and so I went ahead. Oops, wrong way. I went ahead.
I was going to say, you do realize we're looking at the deck of the Starship Enterprise.
What?
We are not looking at anything else other than the Starship Enterprise.
I was about to be impressed you built it out of a pallet.
Whoa! Oh, I know why. Yeah, hold on. Let me take my green screen off. Forgot about that.
Yeah.
My apologies. Let's take virtual background and
ta-da.
No, none. There we go. Ta-da. Okay. Yeah. There we go. All right. So now, so this is what I have. Okay. And I've got a space that's that high and that wide that I'm going to put these in. Some people make them 5, 6 high, which means you have to put on the top, the lighter stuff. But the thing is when they're stacked up 5 high, you got to take them all apart to get to the bottom one. You got to take them all down. So this way, what I did, and this isn't my design, is I took a pallet. There's my trusty hammer, and I use a masonry chisel to get in there and pry in between and stuff. And it's actually a lot of fun. It lets me get my aggressions out and lets me throw the hammer a little bit to strengthen my biceps a little bit more. But anyway, so I kind of took and kept taking it apart, right? There's the chisel. You got to get one of these. These things are like $6. And I can hit on the wider part. I can wedge it down and then hit on the wider part, and that actually takes and moves it away from the wood. In other words, right there where the slats are. So I went ahead and decided to use the sides and not the slats, but I also had some other ones. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. I was just tearing it apart. So the first thing I did is kind of put it together like that to see where they would fit or where they would sit. And I made some of the pallet. I don't know what they're called, but those pieces were the pallet.
I call them rails.
Okay, the rails, yeah, rails and slats. Yeah. And I cut them down to size. I didn't care, what size they were. So, and I used glue and did pilot holes, and then I love using deck screws, and that thing ain't ever going to come apart. So it's starting to come together there, as you can see. And
so that's going to be a tote holder.
It is, yes. There you go. Okay.
So awesome.
And it's free, and that's the whole thing. I didn't have to go down. So there's the finished product right there.
Cool.
So now I got to do this out one at a time when I go to use them. So, like I said, it's going to fit in that area. But anyway,
right. So you can stack 3 totes on top of each other. Yes. And now, you thought about this? Are you going to think about putting wheels on it so you can roll it around?
Well, it's going to be in a little cubby hole anyway.
Oh, okay.
So no, yeah, it's just gonna be there.
But essentially, you could put wheels on it and roll it around.
Right. I could, yeah, sure could.
Yeah. Cool.
Get me back on the Enterprise, on the bridge of the Enterprise. What the heck is that?
So yeah.
Your Enterprise fell down.
My green screen's broken.
Down it goes.
Your Enterprise fell down a little.
Jeez.
Now the show is canceled. They're breaking the set down around it.
There we go.
Those boards in the middle between the slats are called stringers.
Stringers. Okay.
Stringers. Okay. Thank you.
I looked it up on the diagrams. Believe it or not.
Thank you. We must.
So in other words, you have the slats and stringers.
Yes. Those are actually called deck boards.
Okay. The deck boards I use and mill them down to 1/4 inch. Because actually, if I get a deck board that's that big, sure, I spend a little time, but those suckers are $8 when you go down to the big box store, and you got to drive down there too. So I can just make them. I can sit there and produce them, and then when I need them, but I've got to get wider ones for it to be, better. And then I'll also put them together and glue them up together, and then I've got a 10-inch piece of wood that's a 1/4 inch. And that really works out nice.
Yeah, Jeff's Train World says my shop walls have barn wood and pallet wood on it.
Yep.
And then he come back and said, check out sometime my train room is there.
Cool. Yeah, it's all in this train room.
Hey, if you want to spend the time, it's free wood. I mean, yeah.
It'd be free.
I mean, it don't cost you any money.
I had it, and I worked out a little bit.
It's not costing you any money. It's your effort in putting into taking it apart, milling it, or whatever you need to do, rather than going to the box store and buying. I need some 1x4s, so you go buy a 1x4s at their price, and basically you're getting 1x4s off most of the stringers.
Right.
Or not the stringers, but the
well, you can
call
take
them, Donald.
What? Say that again.
You said the stringers, and what are they called?
Stringers and the boards on top are called deck boards.
Yeah,
Deck
the
boards. So
stringer,
yeah, most of the deck boards are pretty well, 1x4s.
you can cut the stringers down too, and make
Yes, you can.
by
You
ones
can.
and stuff. I mean, yeah.
The problem I found with those is they end up having a lot of nails from where they've replaced
Yeah.
the deck boards in them.
Yeah.
You know, you can go to Hobby Lobby and buy pallet wood.
Yeah, I saw that.
There was a place in Mulberry, Florida, that actually built. It was there for years and years and years that built pallets to serve the industry around Mulberry, because the industry around Mulberry was so much centered on using stuff for pallets, the mines, and I mean, it goes on and on and on. And I actually went in there one day because I was just fascinated. I have a place that builds pallets. Who the hell's ever seen this before, And went in there and was talking to him. But when I talked to the guy, I said, well, would you be interested in selling some of the wood that you're making these pallets out of? In other words, at a cheaper price than what I can buy at the box stores? And he was like, nah, that ain't gonna happen. So I was like, but yeah, literally, we had a place in Mulberry, Florida, that built pallets for the industry around Mulberry, because Mulberry is full of industrial complexes and that do all kinds of things, and it was worth their while. Now, I will say this much: after the COVID era and stuff went down the tubes, they pretty well went out of business. But I can take you to the place that they were there, because I went by there and asked them to buy their pallet wood, and they said, nah, we're not interested.
Yeah, fence pickets too. Like Leonard Davis is saying, he uses a lot of fence pickets, 5.5.
Yes. Yes, and fence
I
pickets,
love those
if you'll
things,
go
man.
look, if you'll go look, they're a lot cheaper than regular wood.
Yes,
Right,
they are.
That's one thing I'll stock up on. If I see them go on sale,
Yeah,
I'll go over
yeah,
and get like 20 of them and stick them someplace.
yeah.
But wow,
You know another?
so
Oh,
much
go
cheaper.
ahead.
Do what, Donna?
What,
I said,
Donna?
why are fence pickets so much cheaper than the other wood?
It's a little bit. It's not the actual 3/4 of an inch by 4.5, which is a 1x4 is 3.5 by 3/4. So it's not quite that thick. So therefore, it's a little bit cheaper.
I rip my fence pickets in half, and then do like my grandson or my granddaughter names and stuff on them.
Yeah.
And they work out great. I mean, they're awesome.
No, fence pickets are good.
Yes,
They're good wood, but they're not a true 1x4. They're like a 1/2 inch by 3.5, or they're a little bit less.
I mill them all. I cut them
Yeah.
to size, and then 1/4 inch, and away we go.
Yeah.
I take my 1x and I play it. So I mean, the fence picket would be even better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, this will be a weird one for hardwood, but we live up here where we've got a lot of steel mills and everything on the south end of Lake Michigan, and we can get those. They're really like hard oak 4x4s that the truckers use to keep the coils from rolling around on the truck.
Yes. I know
That is
exactly what.
really, if you can get your hands on some of that stuff, that's
Oh, yeah.
really good wood.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really hard oak. Yeah.
Well, we see them like they'll fall off the trucks and they're off to the side of the road, and I'll just like pull over and toss it in the back of the truck.
Throw it in the back of the truck.
Yeah.
All bud.
But it's really hard wood though. It's like oak or something like that.
All right. So
Finally,
at least
just
we're
takes
getting
crush.
back into talking more about woodworking and
Jim have
some
something too?
stuff.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but doesn't Jim have something too?
As far as what?
I thought you had a project that you were working on that was pallet wood today.
Oh, today? Oh,
Yeah.
no. Today, well, I made a little squirrel picnic table thing.
Yeah.
I showed you guys.
Yeah. Sorry,
No,
Russ.
I had to do that potting bench today, so I got that done finally.
Oh, I saw that potting bench. That was pretty cool. You got pictures of it? You throw up?
Just the ones I sent you guys. You know what I screwed up with is that we've got a bunch of, we were going to do like put walls and stuff in the basement. So I went out and bought the 2x4s for it, right? And then we didn't use 2x4s on it. We went ahead and used the steel studs and stuff.
Yep.
Those 2x4s have been under the porch for about 3 or 4 or 5 years, whatever. And I'm like, I'll just use these things to build it with, and I'll paint it so it doesn't get chewed up. Those things were twisted. They were curved. They were so wonky, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I thought you were working on some pallet wood stuff today, Jim. That's why.
No, it wasn't pellet. Actually,
Who's your
that
little
was
friend, Miss?
Yeah.
Who's your little friend, Miss Donna?
This is AJ. He's my young.
Hi. Hi.
He was helping me build chicken nests the other day.
Oh,
well,
wow.
Great.
Yep.
Jim, you left them under the porch. You left them under the porch because you want to test out your planer.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll tell you.
All right, guys. We're calling a night. I'm ready to go to bed.
So
and what was his? Hold on, just a second. What was his name again? Donna.
AJ.
AJ.
AJ. So for my little wood pallet, and I think Dixon did something similar at some point. I had to build a little forklift to lift up the pallet. So you know
that's pretty cool.
Just had to do that.
Yeah. Is Walmart the only one that has them blue pallets that they have to send out?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna. Donald's gonna get a copyright strike for this tonight because you're not supposed to show blue pallets.
Oh my goodness!
Why am I gonna get a copyright strike?
I meant not Donald. I meant Al.
Sorry. I was gonna let you take the fall.
I meant Al's gonna have to do it.
I was gonna let you take the fall.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you all so much, and we're going to try to get back into these engagements where we're actually talking about real wood and stuff like I talked about last week, and get out of this funk that we had got back in. So I haven't heard anything more about our friend James Parker. I'm hoping and praying that he's doing well. I was going to try to contact his daughter this week and see how he's doing. But just remember him in your prayers. But other than that, sing that song, Russ, that came from Aussie Man. Just give me sawdust, lots of sawdust all around me and everywhere. I like it flying all around my shop and even in my beard and hair. And if you notice, my voice is raspy because, yes, I do have a sinus infection, and I've been dealing with that this weekend. But good night, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Remember, you don't have to go home, but you cannot stay here.
Live long and prosper. Nope. Chris said.
See you later, alligator.
Yeah.
What Chris said.
Wrong.